The person lying in the fire was not dead yet, but was cremated by his family. Because of the intense heat, his feet were still curled up as if resisting the injustice of fate. This scene frightened his young son so much that he fainted. Balam was born into an extremely poor family in India. His entire family of more than 10 people could only squeeze into a dilapidated house. The head of the family was his cunning and wealthy grandmother. Everyone in the family had to start earning money from a young age. Every penny they earned had to be handed over to their grandmother. Balam was exceptionally intelligent. He excelled in his studies and received praise from his teachers. His teachers told him about an extremely rare animal in the jungle, a white tiger king, of which only one appears among its peers. The teacher praised him as that white tiger. The teacher also said he should go to a big city for a better education. But fate is always unfair. Due to long-term labor, her father fell seriously ill and could no longer earn an income for the family. Her heartless grandmother cremated him alive. After her father's death, Balam was forced to drop out of school. Her grandmother forcibly arranged for Balam to work in a milk tea shop. One day, the landlord came to collect rent, and everyone in the village had to hand over 1/3 of their income to the landlord every year. However, Balam was unwilling to spend her life in the village with no future. Balam kept waiting for an opportunity, and 18 years passed. One day, Balam overheard a conversation between customers. Upon learning that the landlord's youngest son had just returned from studying in the United States and that they were short of a driver, Balam saw this as a life-changing opportunity. With his clever persuasion, his usually mean-spirited grandmother gave him 300 rupee for driving lessons. Under the instructor's beatings and his own diligence, Balam quickly obtained his driver's license. That day, he went to the landlord's house for an interview. Upon seeing him, he immediately knelt down and touched the landlord's shoes, then began filling out various forms of however. His humble attitude to become a servant in the landlord's household, his family background would definitely be thoroughly investigated. If a servant betrayed his family, the entire family would be implicated. Balam, a gentleman with a clean reputation, became the landlord's driver as he wished. This was the first time he had lived in a house that wouldn't leak and had a clean uniform. He was already very satisfied. However, as a driver, Balam did all sorts of odd jobs that it turns out he was just a backup driver. As long as there was a designated driver, he would never get ahead. So Balam secretly started following the designated driver and successfully discovered a minor misdeed. Because of this minor misdeed, the driver who had worked for the landlord's family for 20 years lost his job. Balam finally got his wish and became a regular driver. To the capital, he drove the landlord's 2 sons, the eldest son and the youngest son, Xiao Shuai, and Xiao Shuai's wife, Xiao Mei. These were just his fantasies. Soon, Balam successfully delivered his master to the hotel. Taking the freight elevator to the luxury suite, Balam wanted to look at the scenery from the window, but was stopped by his boss. Afterwards, he drove the car to the underground garage. As a servant, he could only live in this dark basement. The next few days, he drove his master in a red handbag to meet various political officials. Because of family matters, the eldest son went home early. Next, he had time to spend alone with Xiao Shuai and his wife. After all these things, Balam felt warmth for the first time. That day, Balam took advantage of Xiao Shuai and his wife visiting his uncle to go back to see his family, attracting envious glances from everyone at the village entrance. However, his grandmother didn't care how he was doing. She only cared about how much money he brought home this time. His grandmother told Balam, "We've already found you a wife. You can get married at the end of the year and then have more labor." Hearing this, Balam was very angry because he didn't want to stay in this village forever. Do we have to pay? Didn't we pay? Do we have to pay? We have to pay. That day, Balam served tea to the guests, but his behavior was unseemly, his clothes were disheveled, and he had a strong smell of iced water on his breath. The guests were disgusted by him. After the guests left, Xiao Mei talked to Balam alone. Xiao Mei said, "Balam, you are so young." The night partying with her until late. On the way home, Xiao Mei, already drunk and disoriented, insisted on driving. With her husband's tacit approval, Balam had to sit in the back. Under the influence of alcohol, Xiao Mei accidentally bumped into a child crossing the road. When they got out to check, the child was no longer moving. Xiao Shuai was anxious to take the child to the hospital, but Balam stopped him and told them to get in the car quickly. In India, it's normal for impoverished families to have more than a dozen. After returning home, he wiped the bloodstains off the car. Balam slept with a smile that night because he had shown his master the utmost loyalty. The next day, the landlord and his eldest son arrived. They warmly invited Balam into the house. Just as he thought the landlord was going to thank him, the lawyer the landlord brought handed him a document. It was a confession document, and his grandmother had already signed it in the family document. He still couldn't understand his greatest loyalty, but what she received in return was a bloody betrayal from her master. Those few days were agonizing. She waited for the police to come and take her away at any moment. That day, the master's servant came to tell her that since no one had called the police that night, just as she had expected, the matter was dropped. It was at this moment that she became disloyal. When she returned to her master's house that day, she was no longer greeted with politeness, but with even more severe humiliation. Xiao Mei, who was highly educated, couldn't bear to watch any longer. Faced with his master's constant beatings and scoldings, Balaam couldn't bear it and pushed Xiao Shuai to the ground. After they calmed down, Xiao Shuai said, "I really should have had them send you to jail." Only then did Balaam realize that even though he had shed blood in America, but he was still the rich young master of the landlord's family, still looking down on people like Balaam, who were considered inferior. Because of his wife's departure, the young man spent his year in drinking his master's wine. During the following period, he dragged his master to eat at a roadside stall and burn incense to make wishes together. Balaam's relationship with his master gradually improved. Xiao Shuai did not receive news of his wife in the end, but instead received divorce papers that his wife had already signed. Seeing that his master was unhappy, Balaam brought out the food he liked that day, but his master knocked it to the ground. His older brother beside him continued to humiliate him. Balaam was already disheartened with the landlord's family. He couldn't get the landlord's politeness with his sincerity, and he even signed a confession document for the rest of his life. Balaam had secretly made up his mind. Since his master was unkind, then he would not be so ruthless. He learned that Xiao Shuai was going to take 4 million. That night, in the pouring rain, he tricked Xiao Shuai out of the car by pretending that the car had broken down. Then, without hesitation, he smashed the glass bottle he had prepared beforehand into Xiao Shuai's neck and slit his throat. At that moment, he felt relieved and drove away from the scene. Thus, Balaam took his nephew and fled by train overnight, changing trains several times before arriving. Got 30 drivers who work in shifts with 26 vehicles, all air-conditioned for the summer months, that I'll never know what happened to my family. But for the poor, there are only 2 ways to get to the top: crime or politics. To is it like that in your country too? Today, I'm a celebrated entrepreneur in Bangalore, Silicon Valley of India. They say